Converting an ENS into a wallet address and then a wallet address back into an ENS unlocks a bunch of useful blockchain data that most people never realized existed. ENS is really what a lot of people show the world on social media. And in fact, there's a lot of people who use ENSs as their online identity. So when I see this stuff on social media, I want to be sure that I can get the most out of it and unlock the blockchain data behind it. I'll give you a little context. ETH addresses are pretty long, so it's kind of hard to remember. If you create a shortcut, it's a lot easier. That's why people are using ENSs. If I send someone Ethereum or NFTs to an ENS, it's always just going to reroute itself back to the wallet address. I'll show you how I built mine. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to make a directory called unlock ENS. And then I'm going to install a bunch of packages that I'm going to need. I'm going to get started with adding a gitignore file just in case. I'm going to make a directory config. I'm going to keep some stuff in there. One is my dev.env. I'll circle back and talk about it a little bit later. All right, so I installed a bunch of packages to help me set up the server, right? One of them is Express. There's a few other packages. And then now that that's done, I'm pulling the packages into my index.js file. Index.js is my home file. We'll keep it very, very simple, right? All right, you're seeing me set each of these packages equal to a variable. Everything I'm doing so far is a simple boilerplate server setup using Node.js. I'm actually going to initialize the server with create server and pass in app. I'm going to make sure I use environment variables so I don't have to add raw passwords, credentials, or stuff like that directly in the code. I don't want to do that, so this .env, dev.env is a way to use environment variables instead of the raw code. Okay, so a couple more items. Just want to make sure I use Express JSON, and then I'm going to make sure I use cores. Okay, basic server setup. All right, cool. Last thing I need to do is I need to listen when the server pops on, and then I want to log something like, hey, my server's running. Okay, cool. Server's ready, just about. All right, cool. So now that the server is ready, there's really only two steps remaining. I'm going to make two simple functions. One of them, I'm just call it address, and that's just going to handle conversions from the wallet address to the ENS. Let's copy it, swap that to ENS, and then ENS is going to handle conversions from ENS to address. I'm going to add Alchemy to each function. Here's the concept. I'm making an API that's going to request the ENS data from the blockchain. And Ethereum is basically just a loose network of thousands of computers all sharing the same code, same data. Each computer in the network is called a node. Some people even call it data provider. Because it's free, I'm writing a node from Alchemy. I'm using a package called ethers that'll allow me to make requests to a specific node. And then once I make the request, if the specific data is available on the node, the blockchain sends that data back that I requested. So now I need to get set up on Alchemy. I need to get a key to allow me to access their node. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run over to Alchemy. I just quickly create an account. It's all free. I grab my key, and then I'm going to return back to my code, to my dev.env environment variables, and I'm going to paste in the key from Alchemy. This is going to allow me access to their node on the blockchain. Okay, now that I have it, I'm going to write out Alchemy's API endpoint that they provide, and then I'm gonna pull in my environment variable, right? And then I'm gonna set up ethers. I'm gonna initialize it, and then pass in Alchemy URL. I'm actually gonna do the same thing for both. Cool. Now I'm gonna just copy it and add it here. So these functions reachable via regular web address. In the URL, I have a flag I'm gonna call convert, and that convert flag is where the user is gonna give me either the ENS or they're gonna give me the wallet address. All right. I'm gonna do a try catch, and I'm gonna go to the ethers package, and I'm gonna use the method they have called lookup address. If I pass in a wallet address to lookup address, it should return the ENS. And when I get the ENS, I'm just gonna send it back to the API with the original address and the converted ENS. If for whatever reason that doesn't work, all I'm gonna do is swoop back around and send an error instead. All right, I'm gonna log this. If we get an error, and then I'm gonna just go ahead and basically copy the same thing down for the ENS one. The only difference is instead of lookup address, you're gonna use resolve name, and that'll go from ENS to a wallet address. This looks pretty good. All right, let's give it a try. So I'm gonna pop in the URL, and then I'm gonna first try convert, and I'm gonna just add Jimmy Fallon's. So it's fallon.eth. I hit enter, look at that. It returns the original fallon.eth. It returns the converted. Dope. All right, let's try somebody else. We're gonna try Mac the VC. Okay, my guy, there it is, Mac the VC, and then we got the converted wallet address. So it looks like this part of the API endpoint is working. Now let's switch this to address real quick. Once we got the address, I just need to pop in the address. And now that I've popped in, that comes back as the original. The converted comes back as Mac the VC. That's dope. All right, it works. Now I'm gonna set up a front end to make this very, very easy to use. I'm gonna set it up with NextJS. NextJS is basically React with the unique router. So a lot of it is gonna look super similar to React if you're not as familiar. And then all I'm gonna do really once I set it up is I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna strip out a lot of some of the boilerplate code that's already in. I use create next app, so it comes with some boilerplate code. We don't really need it, just pull it out. All right, cool. Now I got that out. In fact, I don't even need the footer either. We can keep it super duper simple. Now we basically have a blank project. There's nothing on the page, just a white page. All right, let's give it a title. Let's just very quickly change the content, unlock ENS. Cool. I'm gonna pull in a few things to the file. Next in React, super similar to Node and how the content comes in. Now I want to set up a way to start saving some data on the page itself. So I need an input value, a field value, a converted value, invalid address in case something doesn't work. I need to save that. I also need to save loading and set loading states. That's basically it. I just need 5 of them. And I'm going to add an input here, right? So you can input the ENS or the address. There's a couple of properties I want to set on this input. I'm going to call the onClick1 handle click input. I'll call the key handle key down, and then change handle adding field value. And for the value of the input itself, that's going to be set to input value. Now, if the input value starts with OX, I basically know it's a wallet address. If it starts with that, I basically want to very simply change some of the styling. Very simple things. Otherwise, make sure the border is black. Make sure you have no padding at the top. no margin at the top, and that's transparent. Right, so if I got at least 35 characters and it starts with OX, I know it's a contract address. And if invalid is true, just return something that says, yo, seems like this is an active wallet. All right, if it's not loading, which it should not be initially, then go ahead and show the button that says send. Add a prop that says loading. If loading is true, then show loading. Otherwise, show false. All right, and we're gonna make 3 dots. So basically, if it's loading, it's gonna show us 3 dots. And then I have this function, handle submission, right? So once I enter some information into the field, if I hit enter, I wanna handle the submission. So when somebody hits that button and say they add data into the field, they hit enter. Yes, we are loading. And so if I get a wallet address, actually I'm gonna drop something in here first. I'm gonna say this is my endpoint, right? It's address. Remember we just made that API endpoint. All right, then I'm gonna make a fetch call to that specific endpoint to get some data. And then if the result is okay, then I want you to go ahead and whip it into JSON. Okay, let's log it so we can see it. And then the original is just going to be obj.original and converted as obj.converted. And we set converted to whatever we set converted to. And now we turn off the loading. So once we get that data back, the loading is done. You can bring the button back. All right, I'm going to log it if I get an issue. Okay, so this is basically what I do if everything is okay. Now, if it's not 42 characters, what the user submits to us, and it's an ENS, what we want to do is just, actually it's supposed to be resolved on address. Sorry about that. What we want to do is basically do the same thing, right? We want to say it's invalid, say something weird is happening. I'm gonna make a couple functions. So when the user just clicks into the input field, I just want to log that they clicked. I might add Google Analytics or something like that later. All right, so when a user hits a button like enter or delete, let's prevent default so the page doesn't reload. And then what I'm basically gonna do is just take one character off, right? And then I'm gonna set the input value. And then if you hit delete, then prevent a reload. Actually, I think I got these backwards. Sorry about that. All right, so handle submission is what I'm gonna hit, right? Because 13 is actually not delete, it's enter. It's an enter button. Number 8 is a delete button on the keyboard. Okay, handle, adding field value. So this is basically when somebody is clicking into the input and starts to type. All right, so when they start to type, every time they type, let's just say what you add in there is what they're typing. Log what they're typing each time they add a character. And then we're gonna set input value to that. And then if the length, is true, then set the field value. All right. So all we did was make an input field and add some logic to it. Super duper simple. Let me add a button. All right, added a button. I'm gonna add a placeholder so my field has a title. You see it, and here it is, right? Now I'm gonna enter somebody, J Will. Here's his address, boom. At the address, J Will. There it is. Let's check. There it is. The data is returned. We good money. Now to make this a little bit better looking, let's just add a gradient real quick in our home.module.css to make it look good. I like it. My man, my OG Bun B, let's check him out. There's his wallet address. All right, so it seems to be working. It all looks good. So what we basically did was we made an API. API hits up the blockchain through ethers. The blockchain says, yeah, I have this data, sends it back to the API. The API receives it and then pushes it up to the front end website we made with NextJS. Here's something that's super interesting about it, right? Now I have an ETH wallet address. Let's just say I'm trying to build customer profiles. So I find somebody unique that I like to follow on Twitter. And then they have an ENS. So I get their ENS, and then I map that ENS to an address, and then I map that to a Twitter handle. Now I got a more complete picture of who the person is, but also what's happening, what they're doing in Web3. And that basically just hooks me up, right? That informs me of information. Maybe I get some game, maybe there's some alpha in that. I learned something to do that I didn't know before. All of that stuff has to start with a converter. I put the front end, the next app, onto Vercel, so that's on the server as well. And now you can actually find this demo on unlockens.xyz. All right, so that's it for me. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Let me know if y'all got questions, heckling, suggestions, any of that stuff is fair game. Holla at you dude, man.